Now here is something interesting. Did you know that according to the Steam hardware survey, the GTX 750 Ti is currently the most popular GPU on Steam? This is interesting because the 750 Ti, while much better than the stuff that I usually like to use in this channel, is normally considered a budget-oriented GPU, an opinion that apparently you share. And a budget GPU dominating the charts is not really what you usually associate with the stereotypical PC gamer. Some of you were quick to point out that the rising popularity of this GPU coincides with the rise of people in China joining Steam, mainly to play PUBG, so there's a strong possibility that this is the preferred budget GPU by our budget brothers and sisters in the world's fastest growing game market. Which makes me wonder, can this GPU do PUBG, the game that gives everyone terrible performance issues? Now the other interesting thing is that back in my side of the world, you can get one of these used for approximately the same price as a GT 1030, the same GPU that I use on a very recent video. So say that you found yourself with some Christmas present money and you're thinking of upgrading to a dedicated GPU in order to play some of the latest titles. You might be wondering which of the two deserves your attention. So it is time for
Battle of Budget GPUs!
First, performance. I will avoid older versions or easy to run games like CSGO since both can do that just fine, and focus on heavier titles from the last 2 years to see which one comes up top. Given what I have mentioned before about China and Steam, the first thing that I wanted to test was PlayerUnknown Battleground, especially given the fact that the game has finally been officially released, and with it comes an optimization patch and a new map, not to mention a change that blocks the possibility of tweaking the game using configuration files. Why do you do this to me, PUBG? Just as I was beginning to enjoy playing your game, why do I even bother? In any case, if any other method of tweaking the game is discovered, I will make a video about it. In the meantime, we are stuck with the minimum settings. But with just that, I'm beginning to see why so many people in China have chosen the 750 Ti. In both the old and new map, it performs almost the same, but ever so slightly better than the newer GT 1030. However, as we move into other games, the difference becomes a bit more pronounced. Assassin's Creed Origins recently received an update that helped lower its immense CPU requirements enough that I could try them on my i5 750 test PC, and therefore we can make use of its excellent benchmark tool. And here you can see the 750 Ti having a significantly smaller render time and therefore much closer to acceptable performance on lower settings. It is worth noting that the 1030 is capable of playing this game if you use the configuration file to lower the render resolution under what the game usually allows. After all, I was running the benchmark on the very high resolution of 1080, so these numbers in general are not that bad. Before moving to testing Vulkan, I wanted to quickly test Battlefront 2. Yes, I know, loot boxes are bad, I know, but this game is still an interesting performance test for GPUs, especially in a really high resolution of 1080, and all the settings to the lowest. In here, once again we see more or less the same ratio, with the 750 Ti coming on top by about 10% in raw performance, and it did especially well on the relatively lighter space battles. Before making any conclusions regarding raw performance, I wanted to test a couple of Vulkan-enabled games like Doom. Measuring performance in Vulkan is a mess. You need to use monitoring tools and calculate averages on spreadsheets, but the result was very close for both GPUs. So, to finish, I decided to test Wolfenstein 2, a Vulkan-only title that is currently the heaviest PC game I have ever seen on the lowest settings. With shadows disabled and dynamic resolution on the 1030, it could barely make it work, as previously documented on the video I did about this GPU. With just a smaller resolution and a bit of luck, it might get there. The 750 Ti, well, the 750 Ti just actually did much better. Much better. You really do not need to measure to notice. So, that's it, right? 750 Ti for the win. Hold your horses. Some very involved commenters actually pointed out something that people constantly fail to consider in this sort of comparison: availability. If you have access to a strong market of second-hand components like in Europe or the US, then the 750 Ti is absolutely the way to go. However, if you live in a country with a weaker second-hand market, and I know many of you do, the circumstances change. Let's say you live in a South American country like Brazil. A GT 1030 might cost you approximately 330 reals, or approximately 84 euros. Not as far from what I pay for it. So now, when I tell you a 750 Ti is at least 650 reals, or 166 euros, then you start noticing the problem. Let's take another example, one of the world's most interesting growing tech markets, India. A quick search online showed that the GT 1030 was around 6,000 rupees, or around 80 euros. Well, the freaking 750 Ti can go for about 7,000 to 10,000 rupees. That's a lot of rupees! So if you live in a country where you can get a GTX 750 Ti for the same price as a GT 1030, go for it. You will get a bit of extra performance, especially in some really heavy titles for the same price. But if you live in a country where the GTX 750 Ti is almost double the price, you might want to consider the GT 1030. You will be getting a very similar level of performance for a highly reduced price. And you can go cheap on the power supply since the GT 1030 is also a huge power saver. Now, I want to hear from you. Look up the prices for a GT 1030 and a GTX 750 Ti in your country. Consider the differences in performance that I have commented and compare it with the difference in price in your country. You will see a little button that you can press on the upper right corner of the video where you can tell me which one do you think is the winner. Go vote now. And if you have some time, share in comments where you live and the prices. All your comments are highly appreciated. Many thanks to the anonymous Discord fan who donated the 750 Ti to make this video possible. If you would prefer this video as a written article, I'm trying to flex my writing muscles at ModMy, link in the description. And many thanks to the Patreons who helped me get the GT 1030. You are the best. A GT 1030 might cost you approximately 330 reales. Oh god, that was terrible.